Jobs very hard, at least not yet, but everyone is at least concerned about the growth of the U.S. economy. We welcome now David McIntosh. He is president of the Club for Growth. So, David, welcome back. Good to have you here.
Great to be with you, David.
You know the numbers. They seem to be coming down a little bit. We're not continuing at that breakneck pace. There was a revision up, actually, of last month. Yeah. How concerned are you about the jobs numbers?
I'm not at all concerned with these. I think they showed a very steady report. If you look at the annual average, it's about 160,000 jobs each month. That's 60,000 more than we saw during the Obama years when it was a flat economy. So we're still adding jobs. The unemployment rate hit an historic low. In political terms, that's very helpful to President Trump. It gives him leeway on the economy, at least with the average American, who look at that number more than anything else. Now, for the markets, I think what it did is show everybody we're not on the precipice of a collapse. And that we saw the bounce up today in the markets, but I think what that means is they'll be watching for the Federal Reserve in the couple months and see how things come out from here.
David, go below the top line numbers for a minute, and particularly manufacturing. There's a lot of concern about manufacturing. ISM numbers have come in weak, and also the jobs numbers, I understand, were a little disappointing. Are you worried about that? Because that, although it's not a huge part of the U.S. economy, it is cyclical, and it could be an indicator.
It is a concern, and I think the solution there are some policy changes. We have on the table right now the President's agreement with Canada and Mexico, the USMCA, and I think he will pressure Nancy Pelosi in the House to pass that, which will then send a signal to manufacturing. They can invest, they can hire more people and move forward in a more robust fashion.
What do you make of the politics? You live in Washington, you know this. We've heard various reports. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce was here last week and said they think they'll get it done by Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. The real question is, are the Democrats committed to just going after impeachment, or will they actually try to get some things done that everybody agrees are good for the country? I think Pelosi will have pressure from her new members, the freshmen, who said they're not going to join the radical liberals. They need something to take home and say, see, we can actually work with the president when it's a good thing. If she blocks it, I think those new freshmen could be in trouble.
What's your experience in Washington? Can Congress walk and chew gum at the same time? That is to say, can they proceed in this impeachment inquiry, which seems to be absorbing a fair amount of attention down there in Washington right now, and at the same time legislate something as important as USMCA?
I think it's difficult for them to do both. I think it's a very difficult needle to thread for Nancy Pelosi. The reality is she was reluctant to go forward, but she had tremendous pressure from her far left and the core of the Democratic caucus. She thought with the Ukraine scandal she could have cover for doing that. My call on that is it's going to turn out to be a tempest in the teapot, and then at that point she's going to need something to help her moderates.
So take out your crystal ball, look out into the rest of this year and into 2020, for that matter, on jobs specifically. We heard from Larry Kudlow earlier from the White House saying that he thinks that actually the turnaround is here and that we're going to accelerate. We actually talked with Torsten Slok. He talked to Bloomberg Television earlier today from Deutsche Bank. This is what he had to say about what he thinks is coming.
We think that the labor market will continue to slow, meaning jobs going down still to 100,000, and we do think actually the unemployment rate will go up. So we are getting worried that the trade uncertainty, some of the signs we've gotten from ISM manufacturing, from non-manufacturing, will begin to show up in the data here today.
So, David, there you have an over and under. Which one do you take?
I disagree with him. I am more inclined to agree with Larry, and the reason is they continue to deregulate, and that's sort of a sleeper impact on growth and job, because it's a huge cost for employers, the regulatory burden. So as they ease up on that in the Trump administration, that will help us bring that number back up.
They certainly try to continue to deregulate. How effective are they being? Because we hear a lot of reports now that if you look at the court challenges, the administration's losing more of that than they're winning on their deregulation. It's not that easy to deregulate.
It's very difficult, and it often takes years. But it's a signal to the businesses it's moving in the right direction. The other thing that's really good news, David, is it's happening under the radar across the agencies. And so you're going to, they might lose in one case, but they're going to pick up in others. You saw it in your report on ethanol. They're making it easier to produce that.
Could the president fix an awful lot of this just by coming to terms with China on trade?
I think that would send a tremendous signal. I think both he and China have different incentives to at least reach an agreement not to escalate the trade war. And for the markets, that would be a very positive signal.
But how disturbing is it then if the president brings China into the question of Vice President Biden? I mean, now he said China should investigate. Does that sort of confuse two things? We've got a China trade issue, and now we're going to talk about Biden corruption, as the president alleges?
I think his goal there was to remind people the real issue in Ukraine is Biden and his son. China happened to be a vehicle, but he wants to focus on Biden and have the media focus on that.
Okay, David, it's really great to have you here, as always. That is David McIntosh from the Club for Growth, which he leads. An important programming note now, starting on Monday, Balance of Power will be live on both Bloomberg Television and radio at 12 noon. That's Eastern Time, and that will be followed by a radio-only Balance of Power hour at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That starts Monday on Bloomberg Television and radio, so you can both watch us and listen to us. Live from New York, this is Bloomberg.